Hello, everyone. First of all, I must admit that at the beginning, I thought that knowing a language was not enough to teach any particular language. Therefore, structuring and completing this assessment based on this thought process seemed quite appealing to me. However, after giving it some more thought, I came to another conclusion, such as the first conclusion would be rather more simplistic than how the real world works. After a little more thought process, which a little later hopefully I will be able to explain very shortly, I start to believe that individuals, in the simplest terms, can teach to another individual to a greater or lesser degree the language which they already know. However, to avoid any misunderstandings from the outset, I want to open a parenthesis here. The process I will try to explain shortly is about teaching a language in its simplest sense, not teaching it in a linguistic science. If we need to simplify the topic, we are all familiar with the term mother tongue issue. I mean, not as a problem, of course, but as a topic, is who the teachers were when we were learning this language. I suppose you are starting to guess more or less what main arguments will be based on. Yes, as you guessed very well, I am talking about the family structure and the people who comprise it. As humankind, without exception, except for some extraordinary circumstances, each of us begins to learn the language of the society into which we were born through our family member guidings, naturally, but especially by our mothers. Simply, children have faced their first learning experience of their native language through their mothers, even despite the fact that the mother had no distinguishing characteristics except knowing the language, or even in some cases, being able to speak it. The mothers are forced to communicate with the child, make her the child's first language teacher. But the most interesting thing is that they often do this on a very scientific basis, even without knowing it, such as when teaching the name of an object or the verb of an act. For example, trying to teach smiling as a verb, repeat and pronounce the specific word smile, or to teach any particular object like book, and also to develop a child's vocabulary in a healthy way, to pay attention and arrange this from simple to complex, and then gradually start using signposts, etc. Plus, if I take my personal experience into consideration, at least in the early years, I guess that's why I've never met a parent who expressed their love for their child or children by saying, "My beloved, splendid, wonderful, extraordinary, and talented child," or doing explaining a phenomenon or situation to a child. The mother can remind them of a cartoon or a story the child already loves, thus giving the kid a cultural reference. So it means kind of using cultural elements between the child and her. And in time, ultimately elaborating on these things in as many different ways and means as possible, etc. On the other hand, this process is not limited or ended just between the mother and child. Again, in time, other members of the family increasingly get involved in this process as the new educators. For example, like the father, or even siblings, just a few years older, in a way that reminds us of one of peer or social learning example. Actually, this is exactly what it is. In that way, they all can and do take an role of guiding this new member of the family in the language learning process. As a conclusion, if you can speak a language, you can teach it as well. Goodbye, everyone, and I hope to see you again in a new assessment sharing session.